So coterminal angles, these are angles that are exactly the same in the way they look, except when we're dealing with drawing them out, they either have one more or one less rotation than the angle that's given. So while a 40-degree angle would look something like this, with a small rotation in here, I could have that same angle, but with a full 360 and then 40. So I could say that 400 degrees is coterminal with 40 because they look the same. The only thing that differs is how many rotations. Likewise, if I did 2 rotations, it would be 760. 3 rotations would be 1120, and so on and so on. Or we could do the opposite, and instead of going more rotations, we could actually reverse the direction. So here's 40 degrees again. But now instead of going counterclockwise, if we rotate clockwise, this now becomes a negative angle because of the clockwise rotation. This would actually be negative 320 degrees. We could continue that, go one full rotation clockwise, and then to the terminal side would give us negative 680, and so on and so on. So the general rule for finding coterminal angles is we'll either add or subtract 360 degrees if the angle is given in degrees. What if the angle is given in radians? Well, we know that 360 degrees is 2 pi, so we'll add or subtract 2 pi as necessary. Moving on to B, the fact that I've given you an angle bigger than 360 actually doesn't change anything. We could still subtract 360 to get negative 790, and that would be a perfectly fine coterminal angle. But let's be a little bit more efficient. If we just add 360, we would get negative 70 degrees, which is a negative angle. And then if we just add 360 again, we get 290. Those are 2 coterminal angles that meet the criteria, one positive, one negative, and we didn't have to go through the extra work of subtracting 360. So just thinking about that a little bit will help make the work a little bit easier. Well, not easier, just a little more efficient. C, we have radians, so we need to add and subtract 2 pi. However, 8 pi over 3 is a fraction. So if we go 8 pi over 3 and we add 2 pi, that is not just 10 pi over 3. We need to treat 2 pi as 2 pi over 1, get to a common denominator and go from there. So it would be 8 pi over 3 plus 6 pi over 3, which would give us 14 pi over 3. Second coterminal angle, we'll subtract 2 pi, or just make it 6 pi over 3 right away. Gives us 2 pi over 3, which doesn't quite meet the criteria, so we didn't really have that same level of insight going on with C, but if we just subtract 6 pi over 3 again, we get to negative 4 pi over 3, which does. So we've got 3 possible angles here. This one's a coterminal, this one's coterminal, this one's coterminal, and with coterminal angles, we can keep adding and subtracting as long as we want. There are literally an infinite number of angles that are coterminal with any other angle, because the only difference is how many full rotations you take before actually stopping the angle.